Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Stands, and welcome to our round two preview for the NRL for 2020. It's just me today doing the preview, so yeah, I'll be a lot shorter than normal. I'll try and cut it back a little bit, but as it's a podcast, I think I like it a little bit longer than a normal tip preview or something like that. But yeah, yeah, it's just what I thought. Anyway, I'll straight into the team lists for round two. Obviously, first of all, round one was a fairly good, fairly decent. Fairly, there's only really one out game that stands out, which I thought was Broncos and Eels, but I don't think there was really any games that were close contests by the end of the game, apart from Eels and Broncos. Otherwise, I thought at least by the end of the game, they were just games that went out of hand, and one team, the other team, the winning side, end up winning by a decent margin in the end. But yeah, I'm gonna get straight into the team lists. So the first game is the Parramatta Eels up against the Melbourne Storm on Thursday at Bankwest Stadium. So ins for the Parramatta Eels. Marata Niukore comes onto the bench. I believe he was injured, and I think Keegan Hickgrave, he drops to the reserves. And for Melbourne, Tyson Smoothie, he wasn't named last week, but he did come in late through late changes, so he'll be on the bench for Melbourne. Other than that, I'm fairly sure their starting side is the same, and Nick Hines is in the reserves. Look, so for this game, so I thought the Parramatta were fairly poor, at least in the first half against Melbourne. But I thought the second half they really showed some, they were quite gritty the second half, and they got the lead fairly quick actually in the second half. But I mean, the Broncos did have a few injuries, but I still think that their edge defenses need a lot of work. Blake Ferguson, Wanga Blake's, edge defense and communication wasn't that great. Neither was Marcus Sevo. They scored the first try was David Mead, Blake Ferguson, Wanga Blake rushed in, and then Xavier Coates scored 2 tries on Sevo's side of the field. He rushed in. So I think that's something that they need to address. I thought they would address it in the off-season. I'm sure they did. But that's something they do fairly quickly. Apparently Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses have swapped sides of the field from last year. In the first half, it wasn't too good because I thought Mitchell Moses, the way he kicks, I think he's a right foot kicker, so he has to kind of swing in if he's on the right side of the field. With Dylan Brown, I think he's the left footer, so it's works better if he's on the left side of the field. Anyway, moving on to Melbourne. Obviously, Melbourne were outstanding against Rabbitohs, especially in the first half. Second half, especially the last 40, they struggle a bit. I think they kind of lack that Cameron Smith professionalism. If you know what I mean. Melbourne are still very professional, but I still think the way they wrap their games up, I still need to work on that a little bit. But yeah, I still thought Pappenhausen was absolutely outstanding for them, and looking really good. Their right side defense, similar to the Eels, is looking a little bit not too good. But I mean, fair enough. George Jean, Remy Smith, it's a new combination, so a new communication. So I can see why the reason behind that is. But yeah, so for this game, I'm going to tip the Melbourne Storm here. I just think they'll be way too professional. Even though it is at Bankwest Stadium, it might, I believe it is raining, so it could narrow the competition. It could make the game a little bit more even. But I still think Melbourne have too many points in them, and I just think they're just way too much class. So I'm going to go Melbourne here, 24-14. So yes, Melbourne by 10. The next game on Friday at 6 o'clock is the New Zealand Warriors up against the Knights. So New Zealand Warriors were pretty good against the Titans last week. Obviously, they didn't they didn't win by too much, but I thought their completion rate was very good, and they completed 40 or 44 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, not sure. Yeah, I thought they were very good. I think their kicks could be a little bit better. Showers to Vita's kicks weren't too, they weren't that good, but I thought they did a really good job. And the defense was fantastic against the Titans. Changes for them, obviously. So Ewan Aiken has been ruled out for half of the season. So Adam Pompey's at centre. Bench wise, I think that's it. Ian and Pompey, Murchie. Okay, so yeah, so they're fairly sure it's the same. Bunny Fold was fairly good off the bench from last week. I think Toy Harris was good at lock. And Adam Blake was very good too. So yeah, looking fairly good. The Warriors, another per team who's looking good is the Knights. Kurt Mann had an injury problem issued last week. So I thought he wouldn't be playing, but he has been named. But I would not be surprised if he slipped out, and I'm just using reserves. Phoenix Crossland. So I think he's more of a hooker Crossland, but I think what would happen is if Kurt Mann were to be ruled out, I'd say Watson would go to 5'8", and then they'd put on a bench forward, maybe Safidi off the bench at the 13, and then they might bring Crossland or someone, onto the bench from the reserves. But yeah, Knights were really good last week. I thought Mitchell Pearce was very good. Jaden Borelli back from his ACL injury was good. Safidi scored 2 tries. The new captain, he was excellent. Frizzell, Barnett, very good. Watson as well. So they're looking good. No Kalen Ponga, but obviously still a few things that do need to improve. But I thought they were very good last week at home. Anyway, for this game, I'm going to tip the Knights here. I just feel like I trust them a little bit more than the Warriors. The Warriors a little bit inconsistent, but I just think I wouldn't be surprised the Warriors do win. But I'm going to do the Knights in a close one by 2. Knights 24-22. The next game is Gold Coast Titans up against the Brisbane Broncos. Game of the round here, in my opinion. I think. I feel like this will be maybe the Eels, Melbourne, I'm not sure, but I think this will be a good game unless Titans were fairly disappointing last week. I feel like they're just kind of just passing to their passes went on. They had the fair few errors. I just feel like they just gave David Feeder the ball with no momentum and just give it to him because he's the biggest kid in the field, and they didn't really give him not much expectation in that. One of the most hyped teams in the off season. That's kind of what happens if it's overhyped in a way. But changes for them. Brian Kelly's out. I think he's out for a few weeks. So Philip Samuels is centre. Other than that, I'm fairly sure their roster's the same. I think so. For the Broncos, Matt Lodge is out. So I think I think Reece Kidney's in for them. And Tom Flegler starts, I think. Yeah, looks about right. Xavier Coates had an injury last week. It looked like he nearly broke his neck, to be honest. But he seems to be okay. He's been named. And I think Asiata's been named as well. Yeah, he has been. Despite that concussion last week. I think it was his concussion, or maybe he had it might have been his shoulder or arm. I'm not sure, but anyway, he got carried off in the stretcher, and now he's okay. Apparently, Broncos a big talk. So they were pretty good the first half against the Eels, but kind of lost that. They failed to capitalise in the second half. They did fair few injuries. A few players come off, so that could have been the issue. But I thought Anthony Milford was very, very good last week. He kind of lost them. He kind of lost. It wasn't that great the second half. I thought the few plays that went wrong. He did a few chip and chases, and they just didn't go to hand. But I thought overall he played very good. Anthony Milford. Jermaine Sarker was good at the back, and I think most of the other players were good. Brody Croft was fairly good. They could have won the game, the Broncos, but I just I feel like they obviously coming from the wooden spoon last year. I feel like that's a huge improvement. But we'll see how they go this game. This game, look, close game here. I'm gonna go the Broncos by 1. I don't know about Golden Point, but I reckon 21-20. But yeah, I think even though it is at Seabus, I just feel like I don't know. Last week, from last week, I just seen enough that they could get a win over the Titans, but you never know. You never know what Broncos team, what Titans team could show up to that day. So I'm gonna go the Broncos here. In a very close one. The next game is the Bulldogs and the Panthers. So change for the Bulldogs. Out Brad Dietz is out, and Jerry Marsh King is back, so that's good for them. I think Corey Waddell started last week, so Talon Marin is switching instead. I think I'm fairly sure that yeah, I think Panthers are unchanged side. So Bulldogs started well last week against Newcastle, but then later on, especially in the first half, they just lost. Lost a bit of momentum. Didn't have the ball a lot. It's quite a wet game, but I mean, I don't know. Well, Kyle Fleming was good on debut, but I just feel like Avarilla wasn't doing too much. I just don't think the combinations were gelling as of yet. But I think they'll do a little bit better. But I think up against the Panthers side, that was good last week. I don't think they were excellent. They won 24-0, but I think Nathan Cleary was good. Dylan was good, but I don't know. I just think the first half they bombed a few tries. The first half especially, but I don't know whether it was just Cowboys' good defense, but yeah, I think they'll do a lot better this week anyway. But I think Panthers will win, by a decent margin. They'll win by 18 points. I think they'll win 28-12. I think it'll be a pretty dominant win for Panthers, and I don't really see the Bulldogs competing. They might compete early, but I just think when it comes, to all class in Cleary, Coruscant, they've got too many excellent players to for them to be overcome, beaten. So yeah, I'm going Panthers by 18. The next game on Saturday at 5:30 at Lotterland is the Seagulls up against the Rabbitohs. Obviously, Manly last week were pretty diabolical against the Roosters. I know first game of the season they got Dylan Walker at fullback. He wasn't great, but I mean you're not used to playing fullback, so I can understand their Roos defences Manly were pretty dreadful. I think they know that. So Kieran Foran did a small injury. I think he injured his thumb or something, but he's alright here. Yeah, look, Cherry Evans didn't do much last week. That I think Rooster just bashed him straight through the middle of the field and then went around them afterwards. I just think they really need to work on that, and it doesn't really help when you're up against a team like Souths. But Souths were fairly disappointing last week in the first half. It's a bit like a few other teams, to be honest, but I think they were down 22-0 or something, and they did come back eventually, but I don't know, they just got to work a bit better. I thought, Cody Walker wasn't that good. Second half, he was good, the same with Latrell Mitchell. But, big thing here is Josh Mansour's been dropped. I forgot to mention that. So Mansour wasn't great last week on his debut for the Rabbitohs, but, Bennett has swung the axe and axing from the side. Liam Knight's in the reserve, so he could come in. And I think Jacob Host has been dropped too. Yeah, he's been dropped. He wasn't too good. It wasn't great, but, Koloamatangi. Yeah, Keon Koloamatangi's in the second row for him. And yeah, Jackson Paul is in the wing. So and then changed for Manly. The back line's exactly the same. And I think Andrew Davies starting, yeah, and Kay Cuss moves onto the bench. I think Kay Cuss should start hooker, to be honest, and then I don't really rate Lachlan Croker. It wasn't bad last week per se, but I think Kay Cuss, I think he's got a hat trick in the New South Wales Cup on the weekend. I thought was very good, so I think he's a great dummy half. 5'8", wherever you want him to play. So I think he should play dummy half, and then they should bring Josh Schuster, number 8 in the reserves, to play number 9. On the bench, 14. I think that'd be a better idea. But look, obviously South have a lot of improvement here. If this is a dry game, and I think Rabbitohs, they'll win by a fair margin. But yeah, I think Rabbitohs will be too good here. I'm gonna tip the Rabbitohs to win 34 points to 16. So the next game is the Cowboys up against the Dragons. Both teams, the Cowboys are fairly bad. Pretty shit last week against the Panthers. Their defense first half was good, I thought, but I don't think a few of their players let them down. Jake Clifford wasn't good. They just kept going that Jake Clifford side of the field, and it came up. It was either a forward pass or a kick that went dead in goal. Same with Drinkwater. I mean, Drinkwater was okay at fullback. I don't think it was bad, but their Cohen S was pretty average. Got a few balls. Wasn't too great. They criticised Tamalolo a lot. What I think about that. Like, I mean, or at least what's his name? Is the Cowboys coach Todd Payton. Because he wants to make Tamalolo play less minutes. So I don't know why they wouldn't just start him off the bench and then come on, 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes in, and then, cause something, just tell him to run as hard as he can. So, I mean, they could do that, but they want him to make, say, like 70 metres, 90 metres, not like 200 a game, which is what he was used to be making. So, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, anyway. They've still got two hookers on the bench. Cowboys, something stupid. I know Cotter can play back row, so can Granville, but I don't get that. They just honestly, I think Cowboys need some actual decent back rowers. I mean, a few of their youngsters aren't too bad. Tom Gilbert, I think his name is. I think he's alright, but I don't know. I just don't think. I think it's a bit stupid. Dragons wise, they weren't that bad last week. Obviously most people tipping them to win the wooden spoon, but I thought they were okay. They could have won the game at one point, but obviously I think Jack Bird was okay last week. Ben Hunt was alright. Corey Norman, it wasn't too bad, but I thought they weren't that bad. So I think they'll do. I think they'll compete a little bit more. They could compete a bit better this week. But they weren't dreadful. Um, so the standouts for them. Well, Matt Duffy was pretty good last week. He scored a brilliant try, and a few other ones there. But changes for both teams. Corey Norman's in. I forgot about that. So Corey Norman is in for who's playing? Adam Clune, I think. So there you go. I was gonna say Corey didn't even play last week, so that's why I saw him on the side. No, Adam Clune. Adam Clune actually played okay last week. He did score a try. So, yeah, he's just on the list. It's just Corey Norman was just on the list, so I just forgot about that. So, he's in the side. Other than that, not there's any changes. So I'm gonna tip the Cowboys here just because they're at home. I think the humidity will just get to the Dragons, I think, and the Cowboys will run away with it. I'm going to go the Cowboys 14 points to 10 in a sort of a close one, low scoring game. The next game on Sunday is the West Tigers up against the Sydney Roosters. Changes for the Tigers. Adam Dewey comes in at 5'8", dropping Mozambique to the bench. I think that's it. Yeah, I feel like that's it. Yeah, I think I think the backline's the same. Yep. And then for the Roosters, they've got a fair few out actually. They've got Kieran, Crichton, and Friend out. So their captain is out. So I think Tedesco might be captaining this side. Does it say? I think it has to be Tedesco then, because I think he's vice captain at one point. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think so. Tedesco's captain. The back line is the same, but they've got Freddie Lussick coming in at hooker, and they've also got Nat Butcher, I think you say it, at second row, and then I think Fletcher Baker makes his debut off the bench, and Drew Hutchison is a utility. So Roosters fantastic last week. Absolutely belted Manly. They were excellent. Roosters. You can't believe that they, you know, They just haven't really lost much at all, similar to the Melbourne Storm, and the Melbourne Storm lost Cameron Smith, so that's the biggest thing there. But they were great. Tedesco was great. Brett Morris, etc. West Tigers first half they competed well against the Raiders, I thought. But I thought the second half they just no one was running onto the ball. They were lacking momentum. Sir James Roberts skipped across the field. No one was running onto the ball. No one was doing anything that hitting holes. Doing that sort of stuff. Luke Brooks is fairly poor. Kicked a few bombs out. Kicks out in the full. It's a shame for him. Adam Dewitt 6, 5'8". We'll see how he goes. I think he might have played one game last year at 5'8". Did okay, but this is a Campbelltown Sports Stadium, so we'll see how they go. They're not playing at Leichhardt the Tigers, but I'm not sure. Look, some people are saying, it could be a thrashing. I think Roosters will win comfortably anyway, but I'm going to tip Roosters win by 12, 30-18. I think Tigers do have a few points in them. Definitely, they've got a lot of speed in their side with Nofaluma, Roberts, Lua. If they can, fix their discipline a bit better, I think they can, be half decent. Actually put in some points and look a bit promising here. But I think the Roosters, too much class. I think they'll win by 12 points. The final game of the round is the Canberra Raiders up against the Cronulla Sharks at the Strata Jubilee Stadium. Sharks were very good last week, I thought, against the Dragons. I thought Will Kennedy was the star of the show there. I thought he scored 2 tries. He got a few tries assists. He was very good. I thought Matt Moore and Chad Townsend had good combination. I thought they were very good. But changes for the Sharks. Jesse Ramey's out suspension of that high shot on Matt Duffy. So he's out 4 weeks. And I think that's it changes wise. And so Mawene Hiroti's in the centres for Cronulla. And then for the Raiders, completely unchanged side from last week. Honestly, I feel like Tom Starling should be number 4, and Havili didn't do anything last week. And look, if Tom Starling doesn't get a run, jersey 14, he will not be at the Raiders by the end of the year. He's too good of a hooker to be in reserve grade, in my opinion. And I think he'll get picked up by another club. You could get picked up the Titans, Warriors. Manly even, like Manly, could be up there. He's a good little player. I think another team actually needs him in a starting spot anyway. But I hope he moves his way into the starting side for the Raiders. The Raiders started fairly poorly against the Tigers. They improved in the second half. They're the best second half team in the comp, honestly. You could see them, honestly, with this game, you could see the Sharks leading at half time and the Raiders coming back and winning, by a fair margin, which could very well happen. But, they were very good the second half. The Raiders, Jack White was fairly quiet. George Williams was good. Klokstad, or Nickel Klokstad? No, Klostar. Klorkstar. Anyway, I apologise, Nickel Klorkstar. I think that's how you pronounce it. Apparently that's how you pronounce it now. But I thought it was pretty average. He didn't do too much last week. Did score that try, but I thought it was quiet. I thought Jordan Rapin had a good game. All of Ray's outside backs were good. Simonson, Sebastian Chris was very good at centre. Coming back, Bailey Simonson's good. Curtis Scott was even good as well. So that's good to see. Tarpany and Hudson Young were very good, and their bench was fairly good as well. The Raiders. Obviously, so I think this will be a close game, but I think the Raiders will run away with it in the end. I feel like the Sharks will lead at half time. I might be like 8-6 or something like that with a penalty goal and they'll win leading half time. I think the Raiders will come back and win it. I think they'll put on a few points and then they'll win by about 10. I just feel like they got their halves in the forward pack just bashed the Sharks, and in my opinion, they're a decent forward pack, the Sharks, but I just think the Raiders, I think the Raiders win this one by 10. So Raiders 26-16, and I think they get the job done in Sydney there. So that is it for my preview for round 2. If you guys want to talk more about footy, you can talk in the comments below, or you can go to the Instagram page, which is in the stands _ podcast on Instagram. So if you guys want to check that out, will be in the description below, or you can just go on the podcast, should pop up there, and the other tag should be there. You can just go on Instagram, put that in, and that should pop up, and you'll be ready to go there. So thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys all next week for round 3. Thank you guys. See you later.